I'm Dodge Feeler, and this is The Biology of Becoming, where we bridge science and spirit, and we ask what it takes to stay human in the middle of it. We talk parenthood and building things, spirituality, frontier medicine, longevity, and the one that matters most, how to live well, how to taste the spice of life and still find it in the mundane.
Hey, everybody. I am Dodge Feeler, the host of The Biology of Becoming. And today I have Kristy Janak with me. Did I say your last name right?
Close. It's Janak.
Janak. Okay. But yeah, so I brought Kristy on. She is actually one of my reps with Optimal Balance. And we just kind of got to know each other better, and we're into very similar things. And so we're just going to have a little conversation today, just see where it goes. But, a lot of times, Kristy, I'll kind of let everybody introduce themselves somewhat, because obviously you know yourself better than I do. But tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Kristy. My background is functional nutrition counseling, as well as neurobiofeedback therapy. So I've specialized in that for the past 6 years. I love helping people. I love anything that involves the body, the biology of the body, how the human body works, and how we can optimize the human body in somewhat natural ways, right? So that's kind of what biohacking is using what you have, what you're born with, and then using, advanced technologies, advanced science to help to rebalance and reharmonize your body in a natural way. So yeah, my background also involves fitness. So I come from a professional fitness background. I competed professionally in bodybuilding, and I went pro, and then I hung up the heels and I decided that health and wellness was my passion, and I wanted to help so many people. And so that's kind of how I got into, the human body, functional nutrition, and ways to optimize the body through my own challenges and my own experiences going through that journey. And so once I came out of that and restored balance and harmony to my own body, I just wanted to help as many people as I could. And I'm still doing it till today.
Amazing. And one of the things that you mentioned in the little form I send you, it says that you are someone who you're going to keep asking why until you actually understand what it is exactly. So that was my question, was going to be, what kind of pulled you into this field? Would you say that it is pretty much bodybuilding, or did you have anything else happen in your life where that brought something really to the forefront of what you're curious about?
Yeah, great question. So I am a very curious person, and my practice and what I do involves getting to the root cause to the issue. And so not just looking at the issue or ailment itself, but asking why. Why is this person experiencing anxiety or panic attacks? Or why is this person experiencing extreme bloating? Or why is this person experiencing extreme fatigue or weight gain? And so to back that up, I competed in bodybuilding. I went pro. I won 3 women's overall figure shows. At that time, I was the youngest in history to compete. I was just 15 years old. It's wild to say that now, coming from my older self. And so I was the youngest to open up that category for teens to compete in bodybuilding and NPC, so the National Physique Committee. And then I went on to competing nationally my whole career, and I'm very proud of that. Because it's very hard to reach that level of aesthetics and physique. Being natural, it's hard to, have that muscle tone and that muscle growth compared to other women that are maybe using tools to help them to achieve that desired look. So I went on to competing in the natural realm. I went from competing in NPC to then I decided I wanted to get my natural pro card first, and then maybe I would go back and compete in the NPC. So that's what I did. I won that show. I went pro. And then after that, I started going through my own issues. I started experiencing extreme fatigue, chronic fatigue. From there, I experienced anxiety, depression, just low desire for life. I was very lean at that time as well. I also went through amenorrhea, which is what, women go through when we lose our cycle, which is important for fertility and also just being a woman in general. That was very young to go through at that time, just being around 16, 17, and having such low hormones that my body wasn't able to even produce, monthly cycle. And so then it got me to asking the questions why. And I knew that if I had the right tools and the right knowledge, that I could heal my body and that I could fix this. And so I put competing on the back burner and I just started digging in deep to research and science and supplementation, nutraceuticals, anything that could help get my life back because I was desperate, just so to say. But I believed and I had that hope and that faith that I would get back to feeling myself again after very rigorous training and dieting for years leading up to that. So then I also experienced gut issues as well. So I had leaky gut syndrome going on. I had, bacteria imbalance going on. So I had literally when I said I had the perfect storm, I had the perfect storm. That actually a lot of people go through. So I was going through hormone issues. I was going through gut issues. I was going through metabolic issues. I was going through mental health issues as a result, right? Because the body is connected as one. And so that's what trickled me into taking such an interest in science and nutrition and, the human body.
Oh, that's amazing. It's a story you hear time and again. And a lot of time it is, when the little female is using additional tools, but even just if you're naturally going that hard, your body is in fight or flight, even though the body looks lean, it looks mean, it looks like obviously you're winning awards, but that stress eventually causes issues to the gut. And, for a lot of women, it takes them years to recover. So I am curious, what would you say was the biggest driver in bringing you back to homeostasis?
Biggest driver that helped me to really heal. So I'll kind of continue the story. I was kind of lost hope there for a while of really feeling like myself again. One of my chiropractors had told me about a lady that had did biofeedback therapy. She said, everything you described, I think she can help you. And I was like, well, what do I have to lose? So I went to start biofeedback therapy. To kind of explain what it is, biofeedback therapy uses frequency technology or galvanic skin response testing, GSR, to detect hidden imbalances in the body, unlike traditional lab testing where they poke you, draw blood, and then they spin it, and then they test to see what's out of balance. So this is basically a machine that harnesses get hooked up to your body, kind of like electrodes on your body to detect hidden imbalances in your body. I did that therapy with her for the first session I actually noticed, I felt something was different. I knew I was in the right direction after that first session with her, which lasts, anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. Very relaxing, by the way. A lot of people say after a session, they feel like they just drank a glass of wine. It's very, very therapeutic, very relaxing. So I continued and, towards the end of my healing journey, um, got some very unfortunate news. So she became like my second mom, kind of like a therapist, kind of became my second mom. I referred a lot of my friends, family over to her as well. And she was older. She was close to her 80s and still loves helping people. And she ended up passing away unexpectedly. And so that was kind of like a oh shit moment for me. What am I going to do? What's my friends going to do? What's my family going to do? Because frequency therapy was not really was not super popular back then in 2017, 2018, like it is now. So that happened. And then at that time I was going to school to be a physical therapist. Because I became passionate about, helping people with that. I had two torn ACLs, tore two ACLs at the same time, totaled my knee. That's a whole nother story. In volleyball in high school. And then that's actually what led me into bodybuilding. So it went from volleyball, torn ACLs, recovered, healed naturally, to bodybuilding, recovered, healed naturally, and then to nutrition science and counseling. So fast forward again. Her husband had said that, a doctor was going to buy her business and he would keep me posted. So he ended up actually calling me and he was moved by my story, my healing testimony. He was like, Kristy, I just feel in my spirit that you were called to carry on her legacy. And I think that I think that she would love for you to carry it on. And so it was like a wow moment to me. I was just about 20 at that time, 21. And so I ended up switching my career path, studying basically quantum physics, neurobiofeedback therapy, and studying how this can help people. And so I did some advanced training all over. I had advanced training done in Arizona, at a clinic in Florida, and then also I did even more advanced training from a gentleman in the European region. And so just very fascinating. They're a lot more ahead of medicine and technology in Europe and Germany and those regions than we are here in the US. But Yeah, so that was the start of it. I opened up my own practice basically. So I was helping people, just family, friends. And then it just opened up by word of mouth and referrals. And I grew and I had an office and a clinic and yeah, helped a lot of people. So
Is this clinic still running full time?
no, I still do take on, I still have my clients that I've had for the past few years. As you kind of know, I kind of did a little bit of a career swap. So I am working with Optimal now. And so that is kind of taking up my full time, my full residence right now. But I still do have my clients that I do see on the regular still.
Very cool. So obviously now moving over to pharma side, you're not really doing your typical pharmaceuticals. Obviously, we're doing a lot of peptides and regenerative medicine. How do you feel like this loops into your previous career?
Great question. So, yeah, I became very curious about peptides about 3 years ago. I was actually introduced to a technology that was actually a wearable patch technology that actually activates your body's peptides.
Mhm.
And so I dove deep into one specific peptide, GHK copper peptide, and I really started to study how this could help my clients. And so GHK copper peptide was probably, I would say it's probably the most researched, most known peptide that we know. And I actually started using this technology. I kind of thought it was whack. I thought it was a little, little out there, so to say. But I am very much into frequency medicine, energy medicine, all that good stuff. But I was a little skeptical, to be honest with that. Um, they are the patches by LifeWave, which are incredible. I will give them that. And so I started using technology myself. And, the more I started to read about GHK copper peptide, what it does for the body, the more I became fascinated about peptides in general. And so I had a great experience myself with GHK copper peptide patch. I had tendinous elbow, excruciating pain. I mentioned I had 2 torn ACLs and I still had pain in my knees. In about 6 weeks, all of that was gone. I had more energy than ever. I had less inflammation. I was sleeping amazing. My cognitive function was through the roof, mental clarity through the roof. At that time, about 3 years ago, I was dealing actually with, I believe it was long COVID. I won't self-diagnose myself, but I had gotten really sick. I believe
Yeah.
it was, that virus specifically, and I just felt like I couldn't get out of that fog. So I had a great experience with it. Fast forward, and as science and technology continuously emerges and evolves, it makes one curious, what else is out there? If this can help that much, what else can help? And so I love how this ties in together. I just became obsessed with peptides and, you know, what they can do for us. And I just love how these two merge together. I love and I get excited when, a doctor is wanting to learn about peptides and how they can help their patients. So I kind of went from a more um, patient client care to now it's, more provider education. And so I love just helping providers get the latest knowledge on, peptides because it's kind of I wouldn't say it's holistic, but I would also say it's holistic. Wouldn't you agree? It's
Right.
kind of more of a holistic route. And so I just get so excited, when doctors are interested and they love, finding new ways that are more on the natural side to help their patients overcome different things versus the traditional way, which is a medication. And if medications worked, well, they wouldn't need them for the rest of their lives, right, Dodge? So I love how a peptide, I say once the issue is gone, you can stop doing it. And so I just love how it's just amazing. I've heard miracles on miracles.
No, I completely agree. I think it's always very important to work on nervous system, following circadian rhythm, doing the other things besides peptides. Yeah, I'm a fan of even cycling some different ones throughout the year to avoid having any problems. Just the world we live in. I mean, I'm using an LED light right now, but I think peptides are amazing. I think they are not the end all be all, but I've had phenomenal results just like you with them. And obviously you're seeing lots of clinics. I'm seeing my patients, but I every day I'm seeing just amazing things with the gut, the brain, healing injuries. So it's fascinating. And I did have one more question about just the biofeedback side. Because obviously you've been doing a lot of work with the nervous system. How important do you think working on the nervous system regulation, finding things like biofeedback are if you're going to be using modalities like this?
That's a great question, Dodge. I would say the nervous system is the most important thing. Yes, there's tools out there like peptides, but they do not replace lifestyle factors, right? So they don't replace things that our bodies need on the daily, like good sleep, good nutrition, sunshine, hydration, right? And also stress management. So a background of mine as well, a course that I took was stress management. And it's very interesting, the nervous system and how that plays a role into our entire health. So, the nervous system, when we talk about the nervous system, specifically, I like to talk about the vagus nerve, which is the largest nerve in the human body. It's basically the highway to our health. It runs from the base of our neck all the way down. And it controls, things like our heart rate. It controls our brain function. It controls our organs. It basically tells our body that it's in fight or flight or rest and digest. So it's communicating with our organs throughout the entire day. And I think that's the most important thing. If one can really control stress and regulate stress, it's not about if we will experience stress or not, but it's about how fast can you come back down to baseline for your nervous system's sake, right? Because your nervous system, if it's in fight or flight all day, your body cannot heal. We want it to be in rest and digest so that things can go in and repair and heal and fix things that we may never even be aware of, right? And so one of those things, ways that our bodies heal themselves is in its sleep. For example, if you're not sleeping well, your body is not healing and repairing itself because it's the only time in the day that your body has time to repair and heal itself is in your sleep. And so that all goes back to the nervous system and nervous system regulation. And biofeedback does wonders for that. There's so many ways to skin the cat, right? And so biofeedback's one of those ways. There's also deep breathing. It's also, your mindset. What are you choosing to feed it? What is your thought process like? Are you, staying positive? Do you have a positive outlook? Or are you staying in doom and gloom all day long? Are you staying in a posture of hope? Or are you staying in a posture of despair, right? So what you feed your mind, your body also hears. And like the Bible says, an encouraging word brings healing to the body. And it's also the same for what our thoughts are. An encouraging thought, a positive thought can help to bring healing to the body. I firmly believe that. We have the power with our minds to change our biology as well. And then there's also tools like peptides that can really, come in and do executive functions as well. But I love that question.
No, I love the answer. I'm a big fan of breath work, mindset work, and even just referring to the Bible, where I often will bring up, Jesus went out into nature, into the wilderness very regularly to go regulate himself. And I've actually found a couple studies just showing that a lot of, I'm not really talking about peptides specifically, but a lot of different regenerative therapies, if you're in a fight or flight, you're not in your parasympathetic system, it's less likely to be effective. So fantastic answer. Something that we are talking to our patients about all the time is just trying to help them learn how to, use humming to stimulate the vagus nerve, just different ways to be able to just not always be so stressed out.
Yes, I love that you said getting out in nature. That's so important, Dodge. I'm going to kind of reiterate on that
Yeah.
because people don't realize nature is so therapeutic. It's there for a reason. God allowed us to have color, to have vision for a reason. The blues, the greens are known and scientifically proven to help reduce cortisol significantly. Just 5 deep breaths helps to lower cortisol by 30%. It's all these things that are free that we don't take advantage of enough, So I love that you mentioned that.
Like, nature is just, that's one of my biggest ones. Like you've mentioned, the colors, it's proven that you're going to increase serotonin and dopamine. You can do grounding where you're going to be releasing electrons. You're going to be getting exchange back and forth through the earth.
Yeah.
And then, you and I have been getting to know each other. Like, you like to go work out outside when you can. Hiking. It is basically therapy on itself. And I don't know so much in the US, but there are some European countries that they call it green therapy, and they'll actually prescribe for their patients to go out into the woods, which is kind of a no-brainer to me.
I believe it, yes. In Europe, they are very much advanced in science than I would say that we are. They're very much ahead of their game with preventative.
Yeah, for sure. But slightly switching, just you see a lot of clinics across. Are you mostly in the South, or are you kind of across the United States with what you're doing?
We're in multiple different states. Most of the clinics that I manage are in Texas, specifically North Houston, but I do have some clinics out in Florida,
Yeah.
Georgia, um, mostly those. There's a few others I'm probably missing, but those are my regions.
Very cool. I guess being able to see so many clinics and you're seeing is often regenerative medicine. Obviously, everything is getting very, very popular. What are you seeing that's actually working with everything, and then what's not working? What's being oversold in this game?
Oh, that's a great question. Like I said, I feel like technology is advancing pretty quickly. I feel like just kind of like how AI is taking over a lot of people's jobs. I also kind of see that future with peptides as well, because as you and I both know, the power of peptides, literally there's a peptide for just about anything now, right? If somebody has gut issues, there's a peptide for that. If somebody has toxins in detox, there's peptide for that. Hormones, there's a peptide for that. Cognitive decline, there's a peptide for that. Um, you know, any kind of ailment in the body, basically there's a peptide for that, right? Libido and stamina, energy, muscle building, fat loss, weight loss. There's a peptide literally for just about everything that I would consider are America's top concerns, top complaints, right? I would say America's top complaints would be, weight loss and then also energy next to that. People want more energy, right? If we had more energy, we would do more things. We would accomplish more things. We would be more present for our family. We might do more things with our kids, our families, whatever it is. More energy equals more of everything, right? And so people want those things and kind of quick fixes. We live in a very fast-paced world where people want results now. They want them fast. They want them to be convenient. They want them to be at the tip of their fingertips, right? And so I kind of see that future with peptides when it comes to peptides. Not saying they're going to replace all these things. I think that they can work in tandem with what we already have for X, Y, Z issues. But I do love how they're so convenient. You don't have to, kind of like IV therapy. It's still very much a thing, but 5 years ago, it was very popular. Everybody wanted it. Everybody did it. Now, people don't have time to sit there for 2 hours or an hour, right? They want it at their doorstep. And so when we look at that, I feel like I just think it's an incredible way for people to get the therapeutic needs met, and to be very convenient, right? So I think that we're going to start seeing a lot more, in the, holistic, I don't know if I would call peptides holistic. I do kind of like how they are more on the natural side.
Okay.
Our bodies make them, but we are starting to see those things emerge. So,
Totally agree. I do like that you mentioned most people, they want weight loss or energy, which a lot of that usually comes down to metabolism and mitochondrial function. And there's tons of different peptides that are specific for those. So,
mm-hmm.
so next up, kind of, this may be the one I'm most excited to hear what you say about, but it's, in the form you put faith pretty much right next to science, which you obviously love science. How do those live together for you?
Oh, how do faith and science combine? Is kind of what you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a great question. I think it's important to believe in a higher power. For me, that's God. It's always been God. And I believe that they definitely coincide. I think that, like I mentioned some scriptures, a good word brings healing to the bones and healing to the body. And, there is I do see a intersection of faith and, the body. So yeah, I love how absolutely healing and faith absolutely totality coincides. Um for various reasons, there's a lot of science behind it, that says when we believe in a higher power, the way that our neurons and in our brains get restructured and renewed, as it says in the Bible, that God will renew our minds. Other scriptures that I love is laughter brings healing to the body. Laughter is like medicine. Why does it say that? Because laughter actually scientifically is known to stimulate our vagus nerve, which when balanced, you and I both know can do miracles in the body, right?
Yeah.
So another scripture that I love is, do not be anxious for anything, but by prayer and supplication, let your requests be known to God, and the peace that surpasses all understanding will guard your what? Your hearts.
Mhm.
So this scripture stands out to me in various ways. Do not be anxious. We know that, just being in the background that I've been in, functional healing, functional nutrition, functional medicine, there is a correlation of when a person is experiencing extreme stress, which is anxiety, turns into anxiety, um, can have effects on the heart and cardiovascular system. It has effects on your blood pressure. Have you ever been stressed out and your heart is, beating a little faster? Have you ever been anxious and your heart's beating faster? Have you ever been stressed out or angry and your blood pressure goes through the roof? Why? Because stress, anxiety have a direct correlation with the heart. And so if somebody is in that state of fight or flight and in that state of anxiety and stress for a long period of time, the heart organ itself would become out of balance. And we know that there are various heart issues that we do not want to get as we get older. And so this does, I preach it till the cows come home, to manage your stress. And that also comes with mindset as well.
No, I mean, being in a positive place, being in a place of love, hope, joy, it's proven that it's actually going to change your epigenetics. You can have tons of different genetics that are geared towards disease. Ancestors may have had them. Obviously, this can't fix everything, but a lot of time being in those places, the place of faith and knowing it's going to switch those off to where you can be a much healthier person. It's also just it's vibrating at a different frequency, which obviously you know much more about than me at this point. But Stephen Hawkins is
I
someone that
love that.
I'm.
I love that. Yeah, I love what you said. The highest resonance, the highest frequency that we can,
Mhm,
as humans, resonate at is actually authenticity.
mhm.
And then you might also hear that gratitude. You cannot be in a state of stress or anxiety when you are in a state of gratitude, And God's word, the Bible, tells us, to approach him and to approach every prayer with thanksgiving and gratitude as if it's already happened. And
Yeah.
so that is also optimized, that also operates off of faith, having faith for what is not yet seen, and having gratitude for that. And so a lot of people will also, take that a step further, and, how, you see a lot of people talking about believe it and you'll achieve it, and envision your future and it will happen, and stay in that state of frequency as if it's already happened, and you're manifesting it, right? We hear that word a lot in today's world, that you can manifest it. And there is some interesting data that does state, when we are in that specific frequency, that specific state, we're ready to receive, what our higher power is wanting to give to us, then it is given to us. And I don't think that there's a coincidence, um, on that either. And I could talk about that all day long.
It's one of my favorite conversations, actually, just seeing in my own life in different ways. You see that vision for your life once you decide to change direction and go a different route. And then I try to teach when my wife and I talk about it. I try to teach my kids, which my son's 8 months old, so he just is kind of has no choice but to follow along. But it's revisiting that vision of the greater plan for your life. You don't actually know how it's going to end up, so you leave it up to the greater mind. But
Mhm.
you don't always see it's like it doesn't always make sense when you choose to grow and expand in your life. It's not going to be how it was when you were smaller, where you chose to stay small. It's actually taking that deep breath, having that faith, have that knowing, and then when you see the miracles happen every day, there's no denying it.
Absolutely. I love that. Absolutely. I would encourage somebody, no matter what you've been through, no matter what you've done, failed at, achieved, if you, like you said, are wanting to go after something different, have a new life, have a new future, I would encourage one to remember your future. Whether you're meditating, going throughout your day, remember your future. Don't remember your past, remember your future. And then you will naturally kind of start to gravitate and walk towards that future, right?
Definitely. And like one thing I'd like to add which I'd love to hear your feedback, is yes, you want to hold on to like the knowing of the future. It's all going to work out in your favor, the greater good, but you have to be present in the moment. The biggest prayer I have with my kids is thank you for the blessings they already have. Thank you for the roof over our head right now, with
Mm-hmm.
knowing that there is more in the future. But if you're not grateful for what you have in the present and you're not deeply present, if you're spending all your time thinking of the future and you're not, you know, feeling the breeze, holding the baby, being really there, you're going to miss the future
Mm-hmm.
part too.
That's good. I love that. Absolutely. Being present, being grounded, being content with what you have while also being ambitious and, being motivated to go after what has not yet happened too. So it's finding that balance of, yes, we're called to be content in every situation, every circumstance, but we can also, achieve from that state of contentment. So we can operate in that contentment while going for more, going for our goals, our desires, and that dream that God has placed inside of our hearts, right? And so, um, I love, when we can coincide those two together, right? When we can operate in the contrast of contentment, but also grit, right? Contentment and ambition, right? Life is contrast all the time. We see that, I see that in my life, the contrast in my life of grief and joy can coexist absolutely, right? Hard times and good times can coexist all the time, right? So I love that. Absolutely, Dodge.
Yeah. No, I also love what you just said. I mean, it's part of being a complex human, right? You have a full day, and if you look back on it, you've probably gone through every emotion. You've had some ups, you've had some downs, but overall, you get to choose. Like, this was a good day. Thank you for this day.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Okay, we will probably come back into this, but we'll keep going into to everything else. But do you feel complete? Is there anything else you want to mention on what we were just talking about?
I don't think so. I think that's it.
Yeah. Okay. So, obviously with your career, it's obviously now you're a rep, so obviously money's part of it, but past the money, past the optimizing, for you, for yourself, for your life, your career, what are you building towards exactly?
It's a great question. Yeah. So, you know, everybody has their why, right? I think it's important to know your why that's what motivates us as humans is to have a why. And I think it's very important to have and to feel like you do have a why and to have a purpose. There's also an interesting study done that, on lions, when the lion didn't have anything to chase, didn't have a target, didn't have a goal, that the lion had a shorter lifespan than the lion that had, you know, a purpose, it had a target, it was chasing something every single day. So I would say my why is I just have a strong desire to, help as many people as I can and to um my goal is to just help people have a better quality of life. Obviously you mentioned finances, do I have financial goals? Absolutely, I have financial goals. And I believe that, for everybody that looks a little different. And, for me, my financial goals aren't to, it's not to be gloating about XYZ. It's not to have the nicest, latest car, the nicest handbag, but it's about what you can do with that money, which is energy, to give
Mhm.
back and to help the world and people in different ways. And also, I think that some people have a bad outlook on money and, why people want to be successful. And to me, it's like I also desire to have experiences in life, and we have one life here on earth. And unfortunately, that requires a lot of money to have a lot of experiences. And so that's kind of a desire for me, and to also have that for my family, to also give back to my family as well. My parents, I'm so grateful for my mom and my dad. They took great care of me and my sister growing up. They gave us everything we could imagine with what they had. But regardless of whether we had a lot of money or not, we always had love in the home. And so, that is also one of my goals, is to kind of give back to my parents and to, as appreciation of, and spend time with my family, have more memories and experiences with my family before our time is up, and with those that I love. And so that does require, finances, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like what you're really wanting more than anything out of that is freedom.
freedom. Yes, I love that word freedom. I think everybody is wanting freedom from something, right? Everybody desires freedom, in some area of their life.
No, I totally agree. It's being able to take the trip, spending time with the people that you love. And I love that you actually brought up that hard realization as we get a little older that our loved ones that raised us, they are aging. And so we've only got so much time left on this planet to get to enjoy them. And you really do have to soak up every moment. And it just changes the relationship entirely. Where you have that switch one day just hits you, like your mom might get sick or dad falls. I don't know. I have no idea what your scenario was. Open to you hearing it, but you just realize, oh, these people that have taken care of me, done everything for me, they're not going to be here forever. And you still have to live your own life. You still have to fulfill your own goals. But suddenly everything changes. And you're like, every chance you get, you're going to want to be with your cousins. You're going to be with your
Hmm.
uncles, your aunts, and your family, grandparents. So,
Hmm. I love that. Absolutely. Yes. Nothing like family at the end
yeah.
of the day. So,
Okay. And then next question is just, you're obviously very much a student, very curious, which I love, a little bit of a seeker. But who is it that kind of shaped you in all this?
oh, who is it that kind of shaped me? That's a great question. Well, when I think about this question, a few people come to my mind. First of all, it would definitely be my family. My mom and dad, of course, right? That's what we learned growing up as kids. I would say different traits that I've taken from each one. From both, I would say both of them are very, very hard workers. Both of my mom and my dad, they're entrepreneurs, so they own their own businesses. And they actually work together as well in their business. And so that kind of shaped me to also have that desire to want to be a business owner as well in some way, shape, or form, and to be an entrepreneur. Um, Both very hardworking. My dad is I would refer to him as always being the peacekeeper. Very gentle, humble man. Um, Protector, provider through and through. My mom, she's a teacher. She's very loving, very nurturing. And so I feel like I've kind of taken on both of those qualities together. And I love that about my mom and my dad, right? And then next, kind of growing up, I would say from there throughout my teen years, my bodybuilding career, um, my coach played a really big part in my life as well. He taught me a lot. He taught me that nothing is impossible. He was the one person that saw that in me and knew that I could be a pro, knew that I could reach the top. And he always pushed me to more, and so our saying was always, "Tell me to jump, and I'll I'll ask you how far," or "Tell me to jump, and I'll always say how high." That was always kind of our thing, and so special tribute to my coach, who is actually in heaven as well.
Wow.
He passed away from cancer. He was actually a bodybuilder himself, and so he was like a brother to me for sure. He always believed in me, always pushed me to go harder. Never let me slack, and just a very interesting time in my life where I felt like I grew a lot in a very short period of time while being a freshman in high school, just and going through that bodybuilding career. And so I learned a lot about myself as well. I learned about what hard work was. I learned that when you work hard, you will get the desired results. And when you direct that energy to a specific outcome and you envision it, you literally see it. I literally pictured myself winning that stage every time I did cardio. Every time I lifted weights, I literally saw myself winning that medal. I saw myself winning first place. I saw myself winning the overall championships. I saw myself going pro. And it was really cool now that I'm older to look back on that to be like, wow, I literally manifested that. Now I did the work,
Yeah.
but I was in sync with it and it happened. So it's just like it shows me that anything is possible when you put in the work and you have a target and you know what that target is and you follow it step by step. It's just one micro step at a time, one day at a time. We don't see crazy results overnight. Yes, do we all have big dreams, big goals? Absolutely. But the empire wasn't built in a day, right? And so it's very easy, especially as an entrepreneur, if you are not driven, if you're not goal oriented, if you're not ambitious, it's easy to get discouraged when you don't see like the work is paying off, right? But it's always a reminder to myself that every little thing does matter. Showing up one day at a time matters. You're not always going to be 100%. Nobody is. But if you just give what you have that day, if you give your absolute best, which would be 100% for that day, then you will absolutely get to where you want to go in life.
Great answer. Fantastic. Would you say too, just with the referring to manifesting or seeing the vision and working towards it, a lot of that time you're having to really learn what work is actually indicated, so that you're not spending too many times on the side journeys or working towards things you don't need to because they don't actually line up with what your goal is.
hmm So you're asking kind of,
Making sure, I guess, in your scenario with bodybuilding, making sure that you're actually doing the right workouts, you're building the correct, a lot of time like quads you may be too quad dominant, so you're working on the hamstrings or just a different mindset. You're having to actually make sure what you're doing, all the work you're putting on, all the energy is actually going into what will actually get you to that place.
yes, absolutely. Talk about bodybuilding specifically. It is a lot of trial and error. It is learning your body. I learned the most from my body going through the experience more so than I did through a course, certification, nutrition course, functional course.
Yeah.
I learned the most through that experience about my body. And so, absolutely making sure that the work you're putting in is paying off and you're getting an ROI on that work that you're putting in, right? And so sometimes if something's not working, then you pivot, right? So what's that saying? Insanity is doing the same thing every single day. But if you're going to be insane, make sure that same thing every day is laying a brick to your palace. So, it absolutely, it is insanity to some people, and it's waking up every day when you don't feel like it. It's putting in the work even when you don't feel like it. It's, it comes down to a mindset, and it's not for everybody. Being successful at certain things, certain industries, certain careers, it's not for everybody. It really does come down to a mindset thing. And you can absolutely condition yourself to success if you have never achieved something in your life. And then, something else I'll say is that I also don't believe in failures either. If you try to go for something and you fail, I don't believe there's such a thing as a failure. I believe that we should reframe that mindset and ask ourselves, what did we learn from that? And what can we take from that failure and learn to propel you into success? Because everything is absolutely a learning lesson. Nothing is a failure. It's all for our good, all to teach us something so that we can go to the level that we need to go to next time.
Um, Absolutely agree. You have those moments where you look back on your life and you think of what you regret or you feel like were the biggest mistakes. And a lot of time when you have that broad perspective, you realize that all those mistakes are what brought you to this moment right here, right now.
That's also another thing. I don't believe in mistakes either. I believe, yes, could we have made a better decision in that time? Did we honor ourselves when we made that decision that which we labeled as a mistake? Sure, but we also can season that with some grace and acknowledge that we're human and we learned from that mistake and we can move forward in gratitude versus shame
Mhm.
in that. And that's what's gonna propel somebody. So, two people can have the same experience and say, oh, I made a mistake. And one person can just walk in shame the rest of their lives. One person can take that mistake and be appreciative and grateful for what they learned and what they needed to take from that mistake to propel them forward.
I love that. Yeah. Someone who spent a fair amount of time walking in shame before choosing to alchemize it. That's the biggest difference. So
I
thank you,
love that.
Kristy. Last question. At this time in your life, what is the truest thing you know?
Ooh, that's a great question. Truest thing that I know. It's gonna have to be tied to my faith. Truest thing that I know is that, um, we are put here on this earth for a reason, for a purpose. We all have a purpose. We all have an assignment that our Creator has created us for. And I believe that it is our duty and our obligation to walk it out. And I believe that people and relationships are the greatest blessings in our lives. I believe that God has come to give us life so that we can live it to the full here on this earth. And yeah, I believe that we're called to be a blessing to others. We're called to be of service to others. And I think that if you can wake up every single day and ask, how can I serve someone today? How can I help somebody today? I think that, operating from that energy is going to be what kind of attracts miracles and what kind of attracts where God also wants you to be in those places as well. And also what it does for us in exchange too, the joy that it brings for us to be able to give and to serve. I think that that is so important for us as humans to feel like we are needed here on this earth and that we do have a purpose and a mission and an assignment and that we are called to walk that out just one day at a time.
Beautiful. Well said. Is there anything that we have not addressed today that you would just like to mention?
I don't think so. I think that's about it.
Perfect.
Maybe I would just say that, um, science and technology and biology is continuously emerging, growing, evolving, and I would encourage one to, dive deep, especially into the science of peptides, and get curious. Get curious. Start asking questions. Why am I going through XYZ? Why am I having XYZ issue? You know, um, dis-ease is a lack of ease in the body. And so, whatever one may be going through, I would encourage one to go inward and to ask the question, why? And like you said, Dodge, just your thoughts can change your DNA, your biology, the way you think, the way you see life, and all those things can absolutely affect what's going on inside. And so, I would definitely encourage one to get curious about science, get curious about medicine, and to know that no matter where you are, no matter what you're going through, your body can heal itself when you give it the right tools.
No, I think that's fantastic. I think I probably said it a few times on the podcast, but what you just mentioned just reminds me that our body is the temple. What you're putting in it, whether it's music, food, what you're listening to, it's going to come out that way as well. So,
Absolutely.
and you talked about GHKCU, but is that your current favorite peptide?
Current favorite peptide. Oh, my favorite peptide. Ready for this?
I'm
Favorite
ready.
peptide is gonna be hard work. Just kidding, but not
Fair enough.
really. Like I said, peptides are amazing. They are what I would consider the closest thing to the magic pill. However, like I said, they do not replace lifestyle factors. They do not replace the healthy lifestyle. Your body needs good nutrition. Your body needs movement. Your body needs sunshine. Your body needs hydration. Your body needs sleep. It needs all those things. Those are the foundations. Now, when you have things like peptides, those are tools in your toolkit you can use to biohack and optimize what you already have going on. Otherwise, it's like putting fertilizer and poison on a plant at the same time if you're not taking care of your lifestyle factors. So my favorite peptide, I think I'm going to have to go with my favorite peptide being GHK copper peptide Dodge, actually.
Fair enough.
And like I said, I've been using that one for a little over 3 years now in different various forms, availabilities. I love GHK copper peptide because GHK is special to us. It's actually found in every single tissue and organ in our bodies. It is scientifically proven and known to reset over 3 to 4,000 genes in a 24 to 48 hour period. That's quite a bit. Um, it does a lot for the body, and it's also known to help mobilize stem cells in our bodies as well, which we know that stem cells can basically heal, repair, regenerate any kind of tissue, anything that's going on in the body that we may not actually be aware of. I also love that GHK copper peptide helps with, cognitive function. It can help reduce inflammation. It can help repair tissues, tendons, ligaments. It's not just the beauty peptide in a bottle, which a lot of people think it is just for hair, skin, and nails. It goes a lot deeper than that, and it is found in literally every single tissue and organ in our bodies. And I just love that. If that was, if there was one peptide I would recommend that everybody look into or consider using for themselves, it would probably be the GHK copper peptide for sure.
I love GHK. I always say CU, but copper peptide obviously works very well too. Yeah, I like it, but the stem cell mobilization, there's a reason why if I'm doing a regenerative therapy like exosomes, I want patients to be on that before and afterhand. And
Mhm.
it's fantastic. I am curious. So also, are we still mostly using the LifeWave or have you moved over to, I use cream, I inject it. I've used LifeWave in the past. I moved away from using it really. I mostly just stick to the injectable and the cream. What's your typical route with that?
Amazing. So I didn't know you actually use them as well, Dodge. That's super cool.
Oh
I'd
yeah,
love to hear
we could get deep into that as well. We have time if you
Yes. Yes. We'll have to cover a show on that because I would love to hear stories from that as well. I could talk all day long about the miracles I have seen, heard,
would.
witnessed myself as well. So yes, I still do use the LifeWave patches. Absolutely. I love the fact that the patch is one route, injection is one route. Um, when it comes to the patch, it uses a phototherapy technology to stimulate your body's light to activate your body's GHK copper peptide. So it's basically telling your body to make more of its own. While the injectable is going to be, I would say, a little bit more of a stronger powerhouse because it's forcing your body, right? It's putting that GHK directly into your body. It's forcing it to ignite and to create that signal immediately. And so I think both are good. It's kind of like when we're talking about hormones, right? Your natural hormones are going to be your best hormones, always. But do some people need synthetic and HRT and all those good things as well to help them function? Absolutely. But you don't want to lose your natural hormones. And so I think of that the same way with peptides as you don't want to lose the natural production of your own peptides. And so I do notice a significant difference when I do wear the patches and when I don't. Even if it's just a 20% increase in energy, I'll take it. It's still more, right? So, yeah, I absolutely do use them intermittently, and I also do inject as well.
Very cool. Yeah, the beautiful thing is I haven't seen any indications that it's not like, granted, if I use hormones, that's always going to be bioidentical. Testosterone's the same exact molecule that we've been using since we were born. But there's really no indication that using some of these peptides, at least infrequently, or staggered approaches, that it's actually going to stop the production of your own peptides. Although GHKCU, I think I saw it's supposed to be down to like 20% from what it was when you were younger by the age of 40.
Mhm. I do love that, one of my doctors kind of explained peptides in this way of, looking at peptides as it's kind of like the fuel pump for your body. And he described it as, once you have filled up your gas tank or your peptide tank with that peptide, it holds for quite some time. And so the idea of that, you don't have to be on the peptides for forever because those peptides get replenished in the body, and then the body will use that material to create those signals it needs to regenerate, repair, et cetera, et cetera. So I kind of love that analogy that he kind of gave with using injectable peptide.
Yeah, that's a way that I haven't quite heard described. So very cool. Um, yeah, we can definitely talk about. I've used them for two bicep tears, partial hamstring tear, pec tear, mold. Because I was bodybuilder. I was in bodybuilding. I have no idea why I did not try because I was big enough to. But thanks to afterwards, I definitely needed peptides to
Mhm.
help with the rehab. I was not able to do it by itself. I was obviously always doing PT. Worked as a physical therapy tech, and my uncle was a physical therapist. So I worked for a huge clinic back in Odessa, starting at age 16.
Wow. And then you use the LifeWave patches for those tears?
No, I had someone gift me some of the LifeWave, And
Mhm.
so I tried them just because I used a lot of epithelium already, and I already used GHK. So I was going to just like, I'm not actually going to be able to tell the difference. And I mean, I sort of feel like the injectable is definitely more effective, but I definitely did notice some improvements. I was using the GHKCU, and I quit injecting for a while before I did it, and I was getting ready to get married, and my skin was flawless. And I've used GHK more for injuries and just ongoing longevity than specifically skin, but it's a beautiful addition.
Mhm.
So
Yes, I would agree too. And Dodge, that was kind of I kind of got curious on, comparing the two patch, which route patch,
yeah,
peptide patch, which we have, LifeWave has over 100 double blind placebo peer reviewed clinical studies on the patch technology that it does work. So I kind of got curious on comparing the two, and I wouldn't say you can compare them really. It's kind of what's your preferred method? Which one are you going to be committed to? Which one are you going to do every single day and stay committed to? Because they both work. I think that it's kind of what's your preference? Not everybody wants to inject, I've seen that a lot, especially in my patients that are maybe 50 and up. They don't really want to inject. And so I think that that route can be a great enhancement for their health. Absolutely.
I think this has been a great show. I think we should definitely do another one very soon. But Kristy, if anybody wants to just to reach out to you, talk to you about peptides or any of the other things we've talked about today, what's the best way for them to find you?
Best way, you can find me on social media. That's one way, Kristy_Lynn_fitness on Instagram, or Kristy Janak, first name, last name on Facebook. You can feel free to shoot me a message there. You can DM me from here, whichever way this platform is going to be streamed through as well. You can also feel free to reach out to me on my website, nirvanabiofrequency.com as well. You could submit a intake form through there. So yeah, I would love to connect.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for being on. And that is the wrap on another episode of The Biology of Becoming.